Well, good Sunday morning, everyone. This is a video that I have promised to do for a while. It has been requested by a number of you about my back porch area and how it was made over time to give it this flagstone brick and gravel look. So let me give you a little bit of history. When we first bought this house about 30 years ago, there was a very steep set of what were crumbling, actually, concrete stairs that came down from the back door, which goes into the laundry room, and you can see my laundry basket right there. And it went very quickly and very steeply down to ground level. Now, when we moved in, before I had established my style or my look or what I wanted the exterior to look like in terms of confluence with the style of the house, I put in a redwood deck. And it was here for I don't know how long, maybe 12 to 15 years. Over time it deteriorated. It would give my little boys splinters in their feet. And by that time, I was ready to have a different look that spoke more the language of my house, which I wanted to be more English cottage or English manor house or whatever. So that was when we installed the gravel deck area and what we now call the back stoop or the back porch. So this is kind of my thinking as we made over this space. So when the deck was removed, I wanted what I call a landing and a launch pad area, and that was a flat surface area from which I could stand, watch the kids, stage some plants, large enough to navigate fairly easily, but not so large that it would replicate the look of the deck, which came out to the edge of the gravel patio and then went down to the lawn area. So this area is about 8 feet long and probably almost as wide, though it doesn't look like it's square. But it gives me room to navigate, and it also gives me room to hold this plant stand. So in the summertime, this is a terraced plant stand that comes in 3 sections. There are 2 sections on the end that kind of look like half rounds. I sometimes use just the 2 of them or just the center portion. It's very flexible and I can use it in a number of different ways. Again, it's called a terraced plant stand. It comes from Gardener Supply. And if I can, I'll put a link below. Now in the summertime, this is when I have my topiaries out, and they are readily accessible to move in and out. I can clip on them easily, and I like them being right at hand. In the wintertime, this is where I have my firewood holder. So we can come out the back door and we can get the firewood for the wood burning fireplace that's in our kitchen. So in terms of size, I just wanted it large enough to accommodate those 2 functions. And then in terms of the material, I of course wanted it to replicate the material on my house. So this is the same kind of flagstone that is on the front of the house. And then for the risers, we used brick that is now aged, but it was in the same color as the brick on my house for risers. It's not quite the full length of a brick. I'm going to say approximately 1/2 to 3/4 of a brick. So the rise is rather shallow and low, so it's easy for older people and little ones to navigate. They're not very steep. There is something of a lip of the stone that comes out over those brick risers. And that enables me to, and I've loosened this a little bit so that you can see, that allows us to hide the cables underneath the projection of the stone. So that's a handy little thing, so we don't see those wires typically. I'll put a clip back in place to secure that one. And no, I don't mind the fact that it is moldy and green and aged. I love that. And it mimics kind of what's going on these pots that are very old. and gnarly and aged. Most of them are real terracotta, but some of them, that one there is a faux terracotta. And I've got them both large and small. And these topiaries are boxwood, and I got them around Christmas time one year. And they have been here for many, many years. They're famous. They've been in many magazines. So that's basically how we decided on the steps. And there are, speaking of tripping, there are 3 wide, slow, shallow steps that then segue into the flagstone and the gravel decking area. And typically, right as you approach the steps on both sides, because you can also access this porch from the other side, and it goes out to the gate. Excuse my uglies over there, my husband's boat. Or it also goes directly down to the lawn area. But at each juncture point, when you get to grade level, I have a large piece of flagstone that to me kind of mimics the effect of, say, a throw rug or something that you would have at the entrance or exit to a door. So these are all my pots of topiary. And there is not color here now, but in the fall and in the spring, there is lots of color on this back stoop typically. Right now, again, it's very calm and just green. Now, for some of the more interesting plants that can handle almost full shade, now this plant stand, you can see how it's starting to get a bit of sunlight. This in about an hour will get quite a bit of light to accommodate the myrtle topiaries. These pots over here, an assemblage of concrete and terracotta, and you guys ask where I get them, and I get my pots just about from everywhere. Some of these were actually from an estate sale or gifted. But all of these plants can handle shade very well. So this is soft caress Mahonia. It's a southern living plant. It is a beautiful soft element with a different leaf configuration than what you normally see in the shade. And I will put a link to it below. And this is Foxtail Fern here that I just adore. And then this is another southern living plant that's very unusual. This is a Fashedra. It's really, really beautiful, I think. Looks like an ivy, but it's not. And typically, I wouldn't think this would overwinter, but mine has overwintered fine in this protected area, and I have a neighbor across the street who's got it planted in the ground, and hers does fine and comes back from year to year. So with some protection and some mulch, you should in a Zone 7 garden be able to get it to overwinter, because this is a very heavy concrete pot right here, and I always want to have something in it that's kind of evergreen, so it looks good year round. And then on the back side, I've just planted 2 little hosta that will grow up and fill that spot. Now over to the plant stand. I've got lots of topiary, and these move in and out of the stronger sun. They move in and out of the house. They're here for readily clipping if I am in dire need of some meditative pruning. And these are all myrtle. Now these are fun, and this is going to be a separate segment that I do where I talk about these different ways of how I've kind of, excuse the poor light, espaliered this compact myrtle onto some forms. And that is really a fun, unique way, different from the typical standards like these below that are just ball on stem standards. And my new infatuation are with plants that are conical. So I've got a number of them that I'm growing into very tight, very thin, tall Christmas tree shapes. Again, I will show you that in another video. And then these are actually lemon cypress. They don't look like they're lemon cypress because they tend to convert to green in the summertime. They need some pruning. I've got 2 of them, but these are standard lemon cypress. And you'll notice that I have some plant trays there, and typically you do not want water to accumulate in the saucers of your plants because you don't want them to sit and get overhydrated and soggy. But I have never found that to be a problem with myrtle. I can't water my myrtle enough, and in some cases I actually think they benefit from just having standing water in the trays. And yes, I do have something to try to control the mosquitoes, one of those little Centurion devices. Now the ivy grows on the corner here, and it gets a little rambunctious, but I keep it pruned back. But sometimes I just like the softness of it, and I let it get a little bit out of hand, a little bit unruly. And then we also, when we finished the steps, we put in, not that you can really access it anymore, but there is a wrought iron railing here. And there's a wrought iron railing on the other side. So you can see this just gradually goes down to the gravel dining deck area, and then there are stepping stones that go out the back gate into the little fireplace. So this is how we made over this back porch, or as I said, we kind of call it the back stoop. And there is just a slow progression of shallow steps down. And I do love the way it looks when the flagstone gets wet, and I love all of the shades of green. Now let me back up because I want to show you one other thing that some of you will probably be appalled at and others of you might really like. And I'll talk a little bit more about those stone piers with the finials on them a little bit later. Those finials, those pineapple finials, a sign of hospitality, actually came with the house. So let me back up a little bit. If I can do this smoothly, and hopefully I'm going slowly enough that you can see all of this. These are green mountain boxwood, by the way. There's my trusty watering can. But I want to show you, it's in sunlight, so it's not going to be quite as pretty right now. But we had an awning, and over time, it's been there for years, and over time it has gotten moldy, lichens grow on it, and of course I just love that. I like that look. I think it speaks to the romance and the age of the house. And then because this is an old 1935 house, over here we have our utility boxes and everything, which you'll notice I painted the same color as the trim and the stain on my house. Before they were a light gray and they just screamed at us, and now while they're still an annoyance, nevertheless they do tend to recede into the background. And I pruned back some of the Nandina that were there that actually were tall enough to obscure that, but we need access to the fuse box and things, so I have to be mindful of the utility men when they come out and read the meters. And that's also where my irrigation box is. So there does need to be access to that. So there you go. This is just our little back stoop tour for this Sunday morning. And I hope you got some tips. Because LVTV is launching, I am a little bit behind on answering all the comments and everything, but I do read them and I try to answer them when I can. So if you've got any questions about this, why just drop them below and I'll answer them in an FAQ Friday. Good day.